Hi, welcome back to 183. We haven't met like in almost 2 or 3 weeks, and has a lot of things going on in the past 2 weeks in the capital market. The Federal Reserve has first dropped 0.5% interest rate, and then a couple of days ago dropped another 1%. And those are kind of action that we rarely see from the monetary authority, and as a result that we have a lot of volatility in stock market and also in foreign exchange market. The stock market in the United States has dropped a total of about 30% over the past 2 weeks, and the value of the US dollar also fluctuate quite greatly. And we are living in an era of the high uncertainty, extreme uncertainty. And today we want to move on. So those are the kind of the comment on the current event. And today we want to move on to a new topic. We want to talk about derivative and swap foreign exchange. So this will be our fifth topic. And okay, so next slide. So we have 3 sections in this topic. We want to talk about future contract, and then we want to talk about option contract, and then we are going to conclude this topic with the swap. Okay, so let's talk about future contract. Next slide. A future contract is similar to a forward contract. Okay, forward contract and future contract, economically speaking, they are very, very similar. They allow the investor to lock in the prices today, okay, with a delivery occur in the future. Okay, the only difference between the forward contract and future contract is that the future contract is a standardized contract in the sense that it has a specific size for each contract, and because it has been standardized, so it's usually traded in an exchange or an organized market. Unlike the forward market is more of a tailor-made kind of instrument between the underwriter of the forward contract, that usually is a bank, and the user of the forward contract. So in this regard, they are different, but other than that, they are very similar. And there is a specific terminology for the future market, that is a so-called settle price. The settle price is a price representative of future transaction price at the end of each trading day. So settle price is very much like the close price when we talk about stock market. In the stock market, the last trade of the day, okay, that price is a close price. And in future market, there is a settlement committee. Each day they are going to come out with representing close price based on all information that they receive. So in this regard, that the close price in the future market is somewhat different, and it's called settle price. Just remember, settle price is nothing but close price. And in terms of standardization for a future contract, okay, and they are standardized along 3 dimensions. One is a contract size. For each contract, it has a specific size, and also they standardize on the month of the delivery as well. It was mentioned that the future contract is bought and sold today, but it will not be delivered right away. It will be delivered sometime in the future. And in order to facilitate this kind of standardization, the delivery month for the exchange of different national currency is being set, and at March, June, September, and December. Okay, so that would be deliver month synchronization. And also there is a daily resettlement. Daily resettlement means that at the end of each date, the exchange is going to look into the position of each investor and then decide that whether the investor has enough of the margin or the deposit or the money in their account. Okay, and we will talk about what does it mean by resettlement. And the trade of the future contract usually will not involve putting down 100% of the money, and you just need to put into a small fraction of the trade that you put in as deposit. And this kind of small fraction of the deposit, we call that margin. Usually the margin is about 2% of the contract value. So you just put into 2% and then you'll be able to trade a lot. So future contract come with a very high leverage. And buying and selling a future contract involving paying commission. Okay, and the commission usually, just like the commission that you pay for trading stock, is relatively minimal, and it could be as low as $15 per future contract. So that is close to zero. And there's another terminology associated with the future market. It's called open interest. Open interest is total number of the long or short contract outstanding. Long contract, that means that the contract to buy. The short contract is a contract to sell. Okay. Next slide. And the currency future contract is the most active market is the CME Group. Okay. CME Group is in Chicago, and the trading hour is 7:20 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Standard Time. So that would be Chicago time from Monday to Friday. And this market basically is a 7-day, 24-hour trading. So outside of a regular trading days and time, and all of trading go on to an automatic global system, and we call that Globex. So you basically trade future 24 hours a day, and you trade that every day. Okay, and the expiration cycles, as I mentioned as I just mentioned earlier, in terms of delivery of those currency. Would be in March, in June, in September, and in December. And the delivery date, that means that the swap, the exchange of those various national currency would occur on the third Wednesday of the delivery month. And the last trading day, usually 2 days before that, so we're talking about the third Monday. That usually will be the third Monday of the delivery month. That will be the last trading day. And that's kind of follow the so-called T+2 settlement tradition that we have in the United States. Next slide. So this is one of the currency future quote for the CME Euro contract. Okay, and for the Euro contract, the standardized size is 125,000 euro. So if you loan one contract or you buy one contract, that would give you this obligation to deliver a certain amount of US dollar in exchange that you'll be able to receive 125,000 euro. Okay, on the third Wednesday of the delivery month. And in this quote, the delivery month, we have two different kind of contract. One is going to deliver in June, the other one it will be delivered in September. Their prices are somewhat different. And here you have the open price of the day, high price of the day, and low price of the day, and the settle price of the day. So the settle price is basically the close price. And also we have open interest there. For the near term future contract, the June contract, it has a larger open interest than the open interest in September. This is very stylized in the sense that usually There are more active trading for the near-term future. And all of those prices, for example, the open price for June, 1.3084, that is a price quoted in American term. So it would be the amount of US dollar for each euro. So that would be 1 euro would be good for 1.3084 US dollar. So they are quoted in American term. And if we look at the June settlement price, okay, the June settlement price, that would be 1.3087. This is in American term. And if you buy one such contract, it just means that on the third Wednesday of the June, you will need to deliver 163,588 US dollar. In return, you will be able to receive 125,000 euro. And the way that we compute the amount of the US dollar would be simply the price that we observe today. That would be 1.3087 times the standard contract size, 125,000 euro. And so that's a computation there. And future can be used as a way to hedge, very much like the way that we use forward contract. I mean that we have this certainty in terms of what would be the amount of a US dollar in the future we will need to deliver in order to receive a certain amount of foreign currency. And this kind of help in this particular case that for example, an importer, let's say that the auto master import a Porsche, and this Porsche is going to cost $125,000 for 125,000 euro for the auto master. The auto master will be able to lock in into this particular contract and then be able to receive 125,000 euro on the third Wednesday of June and then deliver that amount of money to Porsche. And now auto master know for sure that it will only cost $163,588 with certainty as long as auto master lock into this contract today. And that's the meaning of hedging. Hedging means that we have certainty about the future obligation. That's hedging. Next slide. And so those are the standardized size, the contract size for the future contract traded on CME. Euro, 125,000 euro. For British pound, 62,500 British pound. For Japanese yen, 12.5 million Japanese yen. For Chinese yen, would be 1 million Chinese yen. Let's take a look at this following example. Let's assume that you purchase a CME euro contract. So that's a long position. And the standardized size is 125,000 euro, as we mentioned earlier. And it's quoted in American term. And let's assume that we purchase this contract at the price of 1.3. So for each euro, we will need to pay 1.3 US dollar. And the maturity is 3 months, down the road. And at an initiation of the contract, there is a requirement by the CME to pay down the so-called initial performance bond in the amount of $6,500. So the initial performance bond is the initial deposit that the investor will need to put into the account to ensure that it has certain amount of equity to taking care of the value appreciation or depreciation. And there is also a requirement of the maintenance performance bond in the amount of $4,000. Maintenance performance bond is the minimum balance that you will need to have at any point of time. Okay, in other words, your balance could not drop below this performance bond, this maintenance performance bond at the end of each day. So that would be $4,000. And if your at the day the end, if your maintenance performance bound at the end of each day drop below $4,000, the consequence would be that someone is going to call you and say that you don't have enough money in your account. You have to put into, you need to fill in the gap. Okay, you need to put the money. You need to put all your money way back to the so-called initial performance band level. Okay, let's take a look of the next slide so that it will become clear what does this mean. Next slide. Okay, and the daily resettlement. I mean that at the end of each day that the CME is going to compute how much money you have in your account. Okay, and the future contract is a zero-sum contract in the sense that when the long investor earn money, it must be the short investor losing money, and vice versa. Next slide. And let's assume that after you purchase this long position at 1.3, and 1 day later, the price goes up to 1.31. So that means that you make money. Initially, you bought at 1.3, right now it's 1.31. So you earn $0.01 for each euro. And the standardized size of each contract is 125,000 euro. So $0.01 times 125,000 is going to give us the gain of $1,250. So that's how that $1,250 comes from. So 1250 equal to 0.01 times 125,000, where the $125,000 is the standard contract, okay, size. And so at the end of the first day, what kind of account balance that we have? Initially, we put into $6,500 and we earn $1,250. So the balance after the first day trading, we have $7,750. Okay, now let's take a look at the next row. At the end of the second trading day, the price dropped to 1.3. You bought at 1.3. After the first day, it went up to 1.31. You make money. Now drop back to the 1.3. So hey, you're even. You are not really making money or losing money. So as you can see that your account balance is the initial amount of money you put in there. That would be $6,500. Okay. At the end of the third day, let's assume that the setup price dropped to 1.27. In other words, that you lost $0.03 per euro. Okay, so 0.03 times 125,000. That means that you lost $3,750. And you start with the 6,500. You lost $3,750. So now you drop your balance drop below the 4,000 maintenance performance bound. So at the end of the day, that your broker is going to call you and say that hey, you don't have enough money. You have less than $4,000 in your account. So you will need to put into money. And how much you need to put in there? Okay, you will need to put into enough of money that is no less than initial performance bound. Initial performance bound is $6,500, not $4,000. So at the end of the third day, you will need to put into $3,750 and bring your balance back to $6,500. Okay. So this is a part that the student tend to make a mistake. They thought that you just need to bring the balance back to the maintenance performance bound level. No, the brokerage firm would ask you to put into additional money to bring that to the initial performance bound level. So that's something that you will need to pay particular attention working on this type of problem. Next slide. The pricing for the future is exactly the pricing for the forward contract, because forward contract and future contract, they are basically very similar type of contract. The only difference is that the future contracts are standardized while the forward contracts are not. So we learn when we talk about the in the previous topic the pricing of the forward contract, we can use interest rate parity to do the pricing. So here we can use the interest rate parity for the pricing of the future. At the end of this slide, you have the interest rate parity for the American term. As you can see that the forward pricing would be given by the spot rate that you observe today, and also would be given by the interest rate in home country and the interest rate in the domestic country that this future contract will involve. So we have this equation. Next slide. Very much like the way that we can speculate with the forward contract, we can also do speculation with the future contract. Let's take a look at this numerical example. Suppose that you took a long position today in one December Euro future at 1.3094, and December Euro mean that the delivery month is December, so the delivery day will be the third Wednesday of the December, and the price is 1.3094, and let's assume that you hold this contract until it expires at the third Wednesday of December, and the spot rate on that day, let's assume, is 1.2939. So you lost money. You bought at a higher price at the 1.3094, and then on the delivery date that the spot rate is lower, and so the difference is your loss. And that difference is 1.2939 minus 1.3094. And this is the amount of the loss in terms of US dollar for each euro. And one contract involving 125,000 euros. So we will need to multiply by the contract size, 125,000, to come out with the speculative loss. That would be 1,937.50 cents. Okay, and so if you take out the long position, you have this amount of loss. And then in contrast, on the other hand, if you're smart enough, you short this position, then you would have the speculative gain in the same amount. Okay, so it really depends on whether you take on a long position or a short position in this particular case. And as we mentioned earlier, a future contract is a zero-sum game. Okay, the amount of money that the long investor earned is the amount of money that a short investor who lost. Okay. Next slide. Let's talk about option contract. So we just finished our discussion on future. Right now, let's move on to the option. And a future contract is an obligation. I mean that whenever you buy or sell a future contract, okay, you will need to deliver. Unless you sell that before the maturity. Otherwise, you need to deliver. It's an obligation. Very much like forward. Forward, futures are obligation. Option are not. Option are rights. That means that you can choose to exercise, or you can choose not to exercise. When you choose not to exercise, basically the option will be worthless. Basically, just throw them away into a trash can. You have that right to do so. You don't have to. You don't have to deliver. Okay. So that is the essence of an option. An option gives the holder the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell a given quantity of an asset in the future at prices agreed upon today. Okay. So here we're talking about to buy or to sell. So the right to buy, we call that the call option. The right to sell, we call that put option. And the price agreed upon today, we call that exercise price. Okay. Next slide. Okay. And an option, in addition to call option versus put option, we also have two different type of option. One type we call that European option, the other one we call that American option. Okay, in this class we only deal with the European option. We don't want to talk about American option. European option can only be exercised on the expiration date. You cannot exercise before the expiration date. On the other hand, American option, okay, can be exercised before the expiration date. And I would recommend that you take the derivative class from Professor Thomas, and in that class that you will learn more stuff about option. And our class is international finance, so we are not going to spend a whole lot of time on the option. But here I just want to let you know that there are two different categories of option. One type is a European option, one type is American option. When we use the word European option, we just refer to this is the type of option that you can only exercise on expiration date. So that's different from when we talk about the quotation. Sometimes we call that it's quoted in American term, sometimes we quote it in European term, right? And that kind of terminology is very different from the terminology we just went through. So please be careful about all of those terminology. And then the premium. Premium is the price, the cost of the acquiring option. Okay, option is a right. A right has value, and you need to pay money in order to have those rights. And the amount of money that you pay for having this contract, and that we call that premium. Okay, that's the cost of acquiring an option. Next slide. Option market. Option market is an over-the-counter market. Over-the-counter market is not an exchange. In finance, when we use the word exchange, we refer to a centralized location where investors will be able to gather together and to buy and sell with one another. That's exchange. Okay, like a New York Stock Exchange. When you travel to New York Stock Exchange and observing those trading, you see all of order come into a pit, and people are trading with one another. That's an exchange. On the other hand, there are other type of market. They are not exchange. For example, NASDAQ. NASDAQ is not an exchange. It's an over-the-counter market. It's a marketplace where investors go through the computer network and through the email, through the phone, through all sort of kind of communication, electronic communication method to make the trade with one another. And that is an over-the-counter market. That's not exchange. And this contract, option market, the option contract can be tailor-made. For example, the option underwritten by Citi and sold that to IBM. And that amount can be, say, 1 billion euro, or it could be 0.54 British pound. Okay, so the size can be tailor-made. And it could be delivered on any given day, for example. Okay, but option can be also standardized. There are exchange out there that have the active trading of the currency option. Okay, one such example is Philadelphia Stock Exchange. This is one of the market leader, and the prices that quoted in Philadelphia Stock Exchange, they are all in American terms as well. Okay, so very much like the CME group, and all of those prices are in American terms. And next slide. So let's look at the standardized option specification traded on Philadelphia Exchange. So, for example, British pound would be 10,000 British pound. That for each contract, that's the size. And for Europe, 10,000 euro. For Japanese yen, that would be 1 million Japanese yen. So compare with the standardized size of the future contract. As you can see, the option contract, their size are smaller. Okay, for euro, for option is 10,000 euro, and as you may remember, for the future contract, the synthesize is 125,000 euro. And let's stop it here today. And next time when we come back, we want to talk about the payoff and the profit associated with the option. So see you then. Bye bye.